Hello, all you freaks out there on the internet. It is I, the athletic brony, FritzRolle732. I hope you guys are having a unlucky Friday the 13th, because if not, then it's okay. I'm here to give you all the bad luck, because it is that time of the year again, you guys. It is time for my second ever Friday the 13th special of my MLP Grimdark Fanfic review series. And for those of y'all wondering, like, second time, when was the first? Well, here's a hint for ya. We don't talk about that fucking story, and you might as well get the fuck out of here, because if you don't, you're gonna get fucked in the brains like Big Macintosh did to the CMCs back in Sweet Apple Massacre, and fuck! I talked about that story. Oh man, looks like I'm the one that's about to have the bad luck. But anyways, unlike last Friday the 13th where we talked about that piece of shit you call a story, we actually have a great story for you guys. We're here to talk about Haunting Nightmare, written by Pen Stroke. Now, the way that I first encountered this story, you guys, was actually the same way how I encountered most of my MLP Grimdark fanfics, and that was through WatchPony.com's top 10 list of MLP creepypastas. And as well as that one, I even saw Applegeek's reaction to the Ramo Dash Presents version of Haunting Nightmare made by Flim Flam Philosophy, which I actually thought was fun to watch. But anyways, I'm not here to talk about parodies, I'm here to talk about the actual thing. So with that being said, let's get on with the review. So let me tell you guys a little bit about Haunting Nightmare. Basically, it's like the MLP version of Paranormal Activity. Like, there is so much paranormal stuff that goes on in that story. Like, first there was like an ominous blackout, and then we messed around with the Ouija board, which in Equestria it's called a phantom speller. I don't know why. And then Twilight starts to have nightmare, and then all of a sudden more paranormal stuff starts going on, and then Twilight starts to get possessed. Then we meet this new character named Third Eye who knows a lot about paranormal activity and spirits and stuff, because it's in this cutie mark and all that. However, he got banished from Ponyville due to that. You know, he really has a tragic life, which I'll explain more about his character later on. And then we get the scene with Ramo Dash, Rarity, and Applejack trying to get Twilight out of there and try to unpossess her, which they barely got out of that Golden Oak library that was full of paranormal activity alive, like seriously. And then all of a sudden there was this mysterious figure that managed to unpossess Twilight, and then Twilight wakes up and is like, is all of this a dream? Like, she was just confused on those past moments. And then towards the end of the story, we start to see that the spirit was actually something called a nightmare. Going back, Third Eye actually has encountered a nightmare before, and the nightmare turned out to be Zecora, who was actually the mysterious figure that helped unpossess Twilight. And that nightmare that possessed Twilight was the nightmare entity that possessed Princess Luna when she turned into Nightmare Moon, who Twilight managed to successfully defeat. But then all of a sudden, the nightmare wanted to get revenge on her, and so she tried to do that so that way she gets revenge on Luna and all that. And sadly, because of Zecora, that nightmare's plans were foiled. However, as for Zecora as the nightmare, her plans were set in motion. In order to avoid anybody from foiling her plans, she had to eliminate Third Eye, because he was the only one who knew Zecora as the nightmare. So she put him in her brew and consumed him along with the nightmare. However, his soul was free. And as soon as she walked into the night celebrating Nightmare Night, she starts to have the thought, should I start to consume and go into my plans now? No. I'll save my appetite for later. For now, I shall enjoy the night. And so ends Haunting Nightmare. So here are my positives and negatives about the story. Positives, the story in general and the writing, I truly love. As you guys know, I am a fan of stories that are longer in length. I'm not a fan of the short tales like The Cough or Butterflies and all that. I'm a fan of those types of stories that actually like really tell a story and are just like greater in length and just have these like, you know, dynamics and stuff. And I truly like that. And I truly like how it's like split into 3 chapters and stuff, like all these stages and all that. Like, we get to see that in Paranormal Activity movies, like Conjuring and Paranormal Activity and all that. And I just truly like that. And speaking of those, that's another positive about this story, is the horror vibes. Like, we get this vibes from, as I mentioned before, Paranormal Activity movies and stuff like that. And also the stuff with Smarty Pants. Let me tell y'all, this story, I did some research. This story was made before I spoke to Smarty Pants. So the fact that this guy made some original stuff with Smarty Pants, that is amazing. kudos to Penstroke right there. And speaking of Smarty Pants, also I truly like the characters, especially Third Eye. Like, even though his life was really tragic, like the fact that ponies don't like him because he has a different ability and stuff, you start to really feel bad for the character. And he was just trying to fix everything. He's just trying to help out and protect everyone in Ponyville, but no. And oh my god, when Zecora just was like, just no. And it was just like, no, it's impossible. Like, oh man, you really start to feel bad for him and start to feel bad for the fate that he had in the ending. Like, oh man, like, you really regret seeing him die. Like, it sucks. It really sucks. But hey, this is what a Grimdark is. It's not supposed to have happy endings. It's supposed to have hopelessness. Which then again, it wasn't really that much. Everyone in the main 6 survived, especially Twilight and stuff. So it was great to see them, but it's not over yet. Or so we think, which I'll get into that later. And speaking of the ending, oh my god, that twist in the end where we start to realize that the OG Nightmare was Zecora, which actually makes sense because I didn't mention this before, but in the beginning of the story, the main 6 and the rest of Ponyville were celebrating a party to start off the Nightmare Night season. All of a sudden, Rainbow Dash had an accident with Pin the Tail on the pony and starts crashing into the Bobbing for Apples barrel, and the place starts to flood and the lights start to go out. And you may think, oh, it's probably because of electricity issues, right? No, it goes out because it was an ominous blackout. It was an ominous blackout that was set by Zecora. And funny enough, Rainbow Dash, it was not her intention to do the Pin the Tail on the pony. Zecora insisted on Rainbow Dash doing it because there's a thing called a ward, and a ward is the thing that protects entities from evil spirits and all that. And in order to damage it, you either have to hit it hard yourself, or it can be damaged by liquid, which is what happened when the barrel of apple juice like spilled all over the place. It damaged the ward, and so therefore the nightmare came to life. And I gotta say, that was insane. So yeah, I truly love the ending right there. And that's a shocker because, as you guys remember from my last several reviews, you have heard me say how much I hated the endings of these stories, but now for the first time in this series, I liked it. However, at the same time, doesn't mean it's perfect. There's still a few tweaks, which brings me to my negatives. First off, in the ending part, there's a part where we start to go into greater detail as to how Third Eye gets killed, and it's the fact that Zecora got him in her belly. They started to go in greater detail of how full her belly is. God damn it, are you trying to get the Vorophiles in this world crazy? Jesus Christ, Penstroke, like, what the fuck are you even thinking? Oh my gosh, we might as well call out all the Vorophiles out there in the world. Oh, Jesus. And I do apologize for going in too deep. And also another thing about the ending, well, when I first encountered it, I thought it was kind of confusing, but then when I finally saw like the whole explanation that, oh, it's just, this was her intention. The reason why she wanted to protect Twilight was because she wanted to take all of her reign. She wanted to become the ultimate nightmare. She didn't want to have Nightmare Moon get in the way, so in order to do that, she had to do her dirty work to get rid of her, so she consumed her along with Third Eye. Just not his spirit, though. And one last thing that I didn't like about the story, and this also pertains to the ending. Let me just check my notes. Oh, yeah. No sequel bait! Now, what I mean by no sequel bait is that in the story, more specifically towards the ending, we get all these hints that there's going to be a sequel in the story. And so far, it's been 8.5 years since the story has been released, and we haven't gotten anything. And that's frustrating because as the reader and the writer, like, you expect like something to go further on into the story and something to follow up, especially if you're providing us these hints towards the end, like, and that's just frustrating. And to put it into more simpler terms, I feel like the writer took a huge risk into doing this while he was writing, and in the end, after publishing it and after publishing his other works and forgetting about all these ideas, that wrist just blew up all in his face, and I don't blame him. Like, it's just kind of frustrating because I definitely can see the story going on further, but at the same time, now thinking about it, if I was in Penstroke's shoes, it's hard for me to think of an idea as to how to follow up with that story, because to be honest, it did feel like a standalone. But then again, like I said before, it did give us some hints. But in the end though, I still really like the story, and if I were to give a rating on it, it's a solid 3.5 out of 5, and I definitely recommend it to anybody out there who's interested. So with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed this review. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for more content and check out the rest of my MLP Grimdark Fanfic review series. Now in this episode, I told you guys about a story that can give you nightmares for the rest of your lives, but in the next story, it's okay because we are going to a fun place, a very fun place, none other than Twilight's dollhouse. That is a wrap, everyone. See ya!
Is to analyze what we cannot energize.